I want to talk to you about the Fuji X-Pro 2. Now, in my first impressions video I did right on my couch, I just talked about how I instantly basically fell in love with the camera and how it felt and worked, in my hands and everything when I first opened it up. And that is still true to this day. Now, this is not going to be a technical review. I'm not going to go outside. So if you want to see that, go read the specs somewhere else. Go, watch a 24-minute review or anything like that. I just don't feel I need to do that with this camera. I want to basically talk about the pros and cons of this and just tell you why it works for me to see if it maybe justifies or, helps you decide if you want to buy this. Now, the one main reason I did not buy the Fuji X-Pro 2 was for video. I'm actually going to start out with this because the video on this is okay. It's just not the best. And the one worst thing is you need to have everything already set up, shutter speed, aperture, ISO, before you go into this, because once you hit record, that's your stuff. You can't really change on the go. So I hope that they improve that in the future. This talks about more 4K coming, but at this time there's no 4K in this. If you want 4K, you have to use the X-T2, which I feel is the more video play camera. But to me, you're not buying Fuji for video, in my opinion. But to even hit record, if you look on the physical camera itself, there is no record button. It's, there's really no video mode to switch into. The thing that it's pre-programmed is at the top, right next to the shutter, right here, there's a function button. That's your record, which you can obviously change to the menus. But if you're looking at this looking like, what the heck do you do? That's where it's set up. So if you tap this, it'll start recording. But once again, make sure all the settings are set. And that's one thing I don't like about this, is it's not video friendly. You do have to menu dive for things. But 1080p, 60 frames a second works for me. I don't really care about 4K. But I'm not buying this for video. But what I did buy this for was mainly for street photography and for taking things on the go. And that's the appeal with a lot of these Fuji cameras, and especially the X100 line. The X100F, amazing camera. I used that for a couple months. I reviewed that as well. I'll link that down below. I actually went to the store to buy that, and instead I walked out with the X-Pro 2 with the 23mm f2 kit lens. Went in with the intentions of buying the X100F because of the size, what it offered, and I loved it when I used it in barter from B&H. But when I started to test the autofocusing and everything like that, this Fuji X-Pro 2 blew me away with how quick, snappy, accurate the autofocusing was, and just how I was able to lock onto something, contrasty or not, and it worked. And that's why I said, you know what, I'm just gonna fork over the extra money and just go with something like this. And then the ergonomics of this as well. When I picked this up, once again, first impressions, I was impressed. There's basically an amazingly built-in grip. It is a thicker camera by all means, but it has everything externally that you need. You don't have to menu dive a lot, which is something that myself, I despise on a lot of these cameras because it just seems like the companies don't care. And I love having like the shutter speed up top and the ISO is in a weird way like the X100F is as well, where you have to lift up the shutter dial to move the ISO, and it kind of flips upside down. But I don't really care about that. The other thing that I really love is like the joystick on here as well. This little joysticks, that way you can move around your autofocusing point to pinpoint exactly where you need. And aperture is done through the lens itself, and that's what I really like about these Fuji lenses, is just how you could see all the settings. You don't need to menu dive once again, and you can go from there. And it's just a quick and easy camera to use. It's lightweight. It's not, it just works for exactly what I need. And I've used this at a wedding as well, just for fun. I put a flash on this. Once again, this pretty much can use a universal flash for the most part, and Fuji stuff as well. But I throw a Yangnu on this thing, bouncing it up during events, during the reception part of a wedding, and I was getting images that were fine. I've used this for the bride and groom as well. The battery life. The battery life isn't amazing, but it's also not the worst for that's on the market. 1250 milliamp hours, and it actually feels like it does better than that, which is totally fine with me. But the battery life, once again, a lot of this mirrorless cameras aren't the best. I do find that it pretty much does better than some of the Sony cameras that I've owned out there, especially the A6000 and the 6300 when I had them. But they're pushing out higher end video and everything like that. But that being said, for what this offers, it does great for a day on the streets, 2 days on the streets doing street photography. And the one key thing that I really think all cameras should have, and that Canon's missing out on, is dual card slots. So right in here, you have 2 SD card slots. And once again, you can shoot RAW to one, JPEG to another. backup, overflow. Pretty much, once again, every camera should have something. So the Fuji X-Pro 2, the 24 megapixels, the autofocusing capabilities of this camera, the access, the functionality, the access to everything externally is a huge selling point in my opinion. And once again, the only downside to me isn't that it shoots 1080p and no 4K, it's that it just doesn't necessarily make it user-friendly when you're trying to figure out how the heck to use the video on this thing. But once again, you're not buying Fuji cameras, in my opinion, to go video. You're buying these for high-end luxury stills, and that these are well worth the price point. Fuji's a very, very good company, in my opinion, especially when they offer firmware updates for older cameras, and they always keep you up to date with everything, and their customer service is actually pretty good. I've had to use them in the past before, and it's pretty good. Fuji X-Pro 2, many pros, only a few cons. Video, maybe the price, especially all depending on where you get it with a kit or something like that, between $1,800 to $2,000 US. So if you're going in between there, you're wondering what it should be. I waited and I got mine for about $1,750 with the 23mm f2. But you could see these on sale, on other forums like Fred Miranda and everything. Craigslist, you might be able to get it for $1,600, which is basically the price of just the body alone, if you think about it, and go from there. But a lot of pros, not many cons. If you care about video and you want to get in the Fuji, look at the X-T2. And yeah, I don't know, that's about it. If you want more lenses, Fuji's got a lot of prime lenses, some zoom. But once again, you're looking at a lot of prime lenses being about, the f2 being about $450. The 1.4s are usually about $800 to $1,000, and like a 10 to 24 or whatever, like 1,000 plus. So look into that. Fuji X-Pro 2, highly, highly recommended. At one point I even tried to think about selling it because I wasn't using it a ton, and I kept picking it up and saying I can't because this just delivers.